when you think about, building your team, I'm sure most of you guys resonate with this, but it's of absolute number one importance, right? Like it's a really big thing to build your team because you need great people to help you take care of your customers and build and scale your business, right? You need great people to help you do that. And sometimes they're tough to find. I'm sure most of you guys can understand this. Just give me a quick show of hands in the room and online as well. Who here has had trouble with hiring in the past? Anybody? Everybody. It happens, right? It's tough, and we're in a pretty harsh environment when it comes to tradies. They're scarce. Whether you're recruiting for a tradie, maybe an office manager, an operations manager, project manager, doesn't matter, right? If we nail what we're going to go through today, we have this thing called the hiring advantage. And so that's what we're going to go through today. I'm pretty pumped to do it. So we're going to get busy in the session. So I need you guys' participation as we go through, right? I won't get you moving too much, but we're going to get busy in the workbooks. Really important that you run some numbers, we plan this out, and we get executing, because I want you to leave with a solid plan here. So just before we go into sort of what this is all about, I'd love to know what's happening right now. So what do you guys currently do aside from just chucking a job ad up to try and hook staff in?
Mentioned to everyone I speak with that we're looking for people.
Yep, Jason, Jenny, do you guys want to unmute?
Yeah, let's hear from them.
I ask my staff if they know anyone and who would you want to work on your team?
Perfect, right? Looking for referrals. Love that. That's great. Cal, can we hear from you?
Yep, the last hiring I did was for a ops manager, and I put it through an employment agency in Auckland, and I'm down the South Island. They got about 200 replies, filtered it down to about 70, filtered it down to about 20, flicked me those 20. I did a couple of phone rounds and ended up with a guy out of Twizel who was moving back to Oamaru, and turned out he'd done a business. Best move I'd done. But it got rid of all the chaff of having to deal with, like I'll put a job up for an electrician, and I'll get the same guy out of India applying, whether it's a Sparky, Storeman, whatever, But it gets rid of all that.
Got to give him props for how keen he is, though, right?
Yeah.
Good on you, man. So important, especially with such a key role. Taz.
We do a paid birthday, so try and incentivise it, that's worked really well. We use Facebook to market. We just got a new admin lady. We're in a sort of small area, so we wanted someone that was local, so they didn't have to drive too far and didn't resent coming to work. And she loves it. So.
And hey, if we don't crack this, right, there's a few things that we can struggle with. I think the first one for me is you can land with some head bruises against on your forehead, right? Like when you've done this stuff over and over again, maybe you've listed ads, you've changed them, you've tried to perfect the headline, you've tried to perfect the copy of text that's in there, you put it in a bunch of places. You can get pretty frustrated, and it feels like you're just banging your head against the wall trying to get a result, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys can resonate with that. And what it can lead to is you can actually be pretty misguided. Something I hear sometimes is, man, I've done it all. I've changed my headline like 4 times to try and crack an employee. I've tried to change this around, try to make it more relatable, blah, blah, blah. And it ends up, with the old saying of, man, there's no good tradesmen in my city, or there's no good tradesmen that are available to be hired, right? And it can become that thought that lives in your head, and it really removes the power that you have from that situation. Because if you're saying stuff like that, you're probably stopping doing things proactively to try and get people, right? And that can lead to some pretty poor decisions. So you go into this, you've got a standard, it's up there somewhere, right? And if you've been trying to recruit for a long time, what you can end up doing, especially if you've tweaked your ad, you've gotten frustrated, you're sick of this, the standard ends up coming down here. And what we end up hiring is somebody who might have half a skill set and showed up to the interview. Cool, man. But we want to keep our standards right up top, yeah? And hey, it can just lead to some burnout, right? Like, your team, if you can't hire, if you're understaffed, you're probably feeling reasonably tired. You've got big customer demand. I know a lot of people are under that pressure of, I need this done tomorrow, And if you're doing the extra hours trying to do it, or your team are behind you, because you've got a great team, yeah, they can have some head explosions and fall over from exhaustion. So we want to avoid that. But hey, there's some pretty killer opportunities if we crack this, right? First one is you're in control. You know the process, you know everything else that's in your plethora of options to be able to chase this down. You can feel confident, like that man up on the screen, right, with the finger guns. Yeah, look, like if you're confident that you know you've done the right things, or you know what's available to do, or you know the things that are in your pipeline that are happening to try and encourage, build value, and show the credibility that you have behind your hiring process, you know you're going to crack the guy when the guy comes out of nowhere, right? When the tradesman decides that he's going to apply for a job in Sydney, he's going to find your ad, he's going to find your socials, he might even contact you proactively because he's found you somewhere else, right? That way you can make sound decisions, right? That standard that lives up here can stay here. That's all I need to say about that. And in the end, you can get freed up, right? Most of the time, we're hiring so we're not bogged down on the tools, or we can get some extra jobs done, or we can get some extra quoting done, or we can get away from quoting to start doing the other things that you want to do, like work on the business, right? So if we crack that higher, that's what we get. So just before we actually dive into the 5 keys, I've got my main man, Graham, who's nailing this right now. I'd love to have a quick chat with you, man. Do you mind popping up? And I've got a few questions for you. Is that cool? How are you, man? Do you want to test the mic, make sure we're all working?
Hello.
Hello.
Taking it out now.
Do what you need to
Working?
be comfortable. Yeah, mate, I can hear you. So just for a bit of context, Graham and his lovely wife, Michelle, I reckon are doing a really killer job with this stuff. So I thought it'd be awesome just for you guys to hear from Graham. So Graham, just so everyone knows you, man, do you mind just giving yourself a quick intro, maybe on behalf of Michelle as well, where you live and what sort of business you run?
So we live here in Hamilton. We've got a landscaping business. We've got a staff of, there's 15 of us, so we've got Michelle and myself in the office. I do all the sales side of things, and Michelle does most of the strategic stuff in the business, and we obviously work on that together. We've got an office manager, project manager, and an estimator, and we've got 10 guys on the tools.
Cool, nice. And can you give everyone a bit of insight about like what you were facing in terms of the problems, what the barriers were?
We've always got lots of, had a really good job ad, did the sign-on bonus thing, like everything, and always got lots of people applying, and then sometimes not a lot of people applying, but often it was people that just were not right for the position. So that was the biggest problem, that you end up spending a lot of time just filtering through people that were never even an option to start with.
Yeah, hugely.
But we've had some, having said that, we've had some good people from those ads too, so it's sort of not something that would stop doing that.
100%, definitely. We want to make that sort of initial hook, right, to get them to look. But I'd love for you to just tell us about what you've worked on to really improve your power when it comes to hiring.
So the biggest thing we've done is changed all our social media now, that instead of targeting our social media towards clients, we've targeted it towards potential staff members. So it's just changing the mindset on how your social media is done. So instead of like putting down saying we're really great at doing this and we can do this and we can do that, we certainly show that with all our photos and stuff we put on. We show the variety of work that we do, which and it's more so the pictures of that show clients what we can do. Mm-hmm. But we just put all our staff bios on there, like anyone who's a new team member, we put something up about them. We got a questionnaire for them to fill out, so they write that. It's always got a bit of humour in there as well. So anyone that's sort of following us, they can see anyone new that's coming onto the team. We've got a Golden Shovel Award, so every month everyone can nominate someone from the team who's gone above and beyond, and that's got to relate back to our company values as well. When that person's won it, we get a photo of them with the golden shovel, and we put that up and we write down what they were nominated for and why they got it, so all that's going out to the public as well. Any team events, we put everything up about that. So everything that anyone that's a future staff member, possible future staff member, is seeing all that sort of stuff, so they can see what the other guys that are working for us, what they can expect to happen if they come to see us, and they get to see the other guys that are working for us. So yeah, it's trying to
Huge.
attract those people and clients will come just as a bit of an byproduct from that. They can see that the team that will come to the site, all get on well together. They're a good bunch of guys, so they sort of know people before they get there.
Massive, love it. Great share. And what have been the results?
We've started getting people coming to us and applying for jobs when we haven't even got job ads up.
How good, right?
Yeah. So the last 6 people that we've interviewed and ended up employing have all said that they've been following us on social media and really like the stuff that we've been doing. And the last 3 have been, we haven't even had a job advertised. We've had a job advertised in the past that they've looked at, but they've just got in touch with us after that and said, I know you're not advertising at the moment, but I'm so. And out of that, 4 of those people have come from out of town. So they've been wanting to relocate. 3 have come down from Auckland, 1's come up from Wellington. They've been looking, wanting to move. They might have been moving for different reasons. Their partner's got a job in Hamilton or whatever. So that's what sort of managed to pull them into us.
That's so good. Can I just get a quick show of hands? Who would love to be approached by some tradesmen saying, hey, I want a job and I would love to come work for you? Pretty awesome, right? And just any key insights from this change and how you've implemented it that you'd like to share?
Key insight is if you haven't got time to do it yourself, like we get our office manager to do all of it, get someone on it and put the time into it. Like we could never have done it if we didn't have an office manager, or we wouldn't have done it as well. So she just got it and runs with it now. We don't really have a lot to do at all. She just sort of comes and tells, this is what we've done, and it's sorted, it's all there. So, but it's just constantly putting stuff on there and having good content that goes on there all the time, encouraging guys on site to be taking photos and videos if possible all the time, so that stuff can go on there.
So just a couple of questions around how often are you posting per week, and how do you get the team to actually get involved with taking photos of them and getting involved in that side of things?
As far as taking the photos, our office managers just, we've got a private Facebook group for our company, so all the guys can put whatever they want on there, whether it's work-related or just a joke or whatever. But as far as team buy-in, it was pretty easy. It's more so just showing the work, so from that point of view, it was pretty easy. As far as often, as regular and as much as you can do it, you can't do it too much.
Appreciate that, Graham. You're a legend. All right, let's carry on. So got 5 key principles to run through with you guys. First one for me is to do this and to understand the importance of this, we really need to dive into what the return on investment is. So for anyone who doesn't know, ROI, return on investment. So what I'd like you guys to do is just to turn to page 16 in your workbook. And I'd love for you to have a think about what an extra tradesman is actually worth to your business and revenue, maybe per month. That's probably a reasonable calculation to figure out in your head. So if you had one more guy on and he was out there, profitable, doing work, how much revenue would he add to your business? One extra tradesman. So when we think about this, we've got to think about obviously his charge out, but also the materials that he's selling, right? So I want you to just take 30 seconds, write that number down in the workbook. So if you can do that for me, do that now. Just ballpark it. I think you'll probably be able to get a pretty good gauge. All right, so most of you guys would have written down a number. Whether you're online or in the room, you should have written down some number of what your tradesman's worth to you per month. Now, we've done a bit of research around this. We reckon, based on what we've found, the average tradesman's going to add about $25,000 in revenue to your business per month. All right, so it's a guy who's outchargeable, pretty well utilized, selling materials, about 25K a month, right? Now we need to allow for, people like to take holidays every now and then, scumbags, but we should allow for that. So if we extrapolate that out for a year, we probably want to give that, we'll times it by 11, just to be kind of gracious in that sense, right? So $25,000 by 11 is $275,000, $75,000. Right? I think that's right. Hopefully my maths is okay. 275K a year, right? So one tradesman, 275K a year in revenue. Following me so far? Cool. All right, nice. So now what we need to do is we need to times that number and you guys should have your own number. Maybe it's 25K, maybe it's slightly different. I want you to times that yearly number by your average gross profit percentage. So for me, for example, I'm going to say that my business runs at about 40%. That's my GP every month pretty consistently. So for me, that's going to be $110,000 in gross profit per year, right? Extra profitability that you're adding to that gross profit line, right? $110,000. Now, once you've calculated that, I'd love for you to calculate that. Can I get a few people just to pop up to the mic and tell me what that number is for them? And
We've got a couple. So we've got 154 from Steph, 132K from Ryan Dunbar,
nice. All right, cool. We got Logan.
93,000 from Ed and Michelle. We've got 88,000 from Adam.
Yep, nice. Thanks, Damo. We'll get Logan.
At a 40% margin, that was 132K.
132K a year.
Yep.
Dude, do you want that?
Sure do.
So this is important, right? Fitzy?
66K, which is
66K is the added gross profit?
yes.
Do you want that?
Yeah.
So is it important?
Yeah. Very
All right, cool. This is important, right? The return on investment here is huge. I know there will be some overheads if you're adding a brand new tradie, but it's a massive amount of profit to add to your business. So this is an effective way to increase that. So if I get this rolling back. The next one here is we've got to focus on actually building the culture. Hopefully my slides come back. Yep. All right, sweet. So we're focusing on building culture first, right? So, hey, we always talk about, building that culture and selling that culture. We always say it, right? Like in the job ads, it's, this is a great place to work. But here's the thing. Your business actually has to be a great place to work for you to be able to do that, right? So we want to focus on that culture. And so when we sell it, it's actually realistic. It's actually happening, right? A few of you guys in this room do that really, really bloody well. Now, there's a great way to measure culture. We've talked about it a few times in the past. It's this thing called ENPS. That stands for Employee Net Promoter Score. Really what it is in its simplest form is a 1 to 10 survey, or maybe it's 0 to 10 survey, on how likely your team would be to recommend somebody to come and work for your business, right? Pretty much a referral. So if you do these, to know you're nailing it, the majority of the answers that you want from your team are 9s and 10s. People are naturally wired, even the people who don't give 10s are pretty wired to give 9s or 10s for a place that actually actively at a barbecue say, man, come and work for this place. It's bloody cool. You won't regret it. Right? The 7s and 8s means it's pretty passive, and then 6 or below, they're probably actively telling people not to come and work there because it's pretty shit. So it's a great way to actually know, right? We've got to measure some of this stuff. Now, there's heaps of things you can do to nail this, right? You've got core values, rules of the game. There's 20s, performance appraisals, actually making development plans for your team to upskill them and grow them into epic tradesmen or operations managers with careers, right? So there's a bunch of ways that you can do that. And we've got heaps of trainings on this stuff, but it's important that it's a focus so you can build that culture, so you can sell that culture to create that hiring advantage, right? Number 3, we have to market for talent. I guess the easiest way to look at this is, the most important marketing that we do is for talent, right? And you can kind of think about it like the NBL or the NBA draft, and we want to get the best picks in the draft, right? So you've got to do the work so that you have that power so you can get the best picks in the draft. And when you think about your marketing, pretty much everything that's outwardly facing has an effect on this, right? And it can attract or detract from their opinion of you. So your vans, your social media, your emails that go out, wherever you're putting your brand presence is going to either make people think that you're a great place to work or the opposite, right? So does this business look like a business that's organized? Does this business look like a business that's going somewhere, that has vision, that has an awesome leader, that has a team that they want to work for, right? These are the types of questions that we want to be answering with the outwardly facing marketing. And so that's why it's so bloody important. And if we think about brands as a wider perspective, I'll throw a couple at you. Does anyone like old classic watches? Just give me a show of hands. Anyone in the room like old classic watches? All right, sweet. So not many people. Okay, this should work then. Who here in the room has heard of a brand called Rolex? Right. Pretty much everybody. Okay. Who has heard of Patek Philippe? Less. Who's heard of Breitling? Less. Who's heard of Tissot? A few more, bit cheaper. All right, cool. So, I'm just being honest. I guess you have to go through a bouncer to get a Rolex in New Zealand. I think you don't have to do that for a Tissot, so it kind of makes sense. But I think the important piece here is most people know the brand, right? People know Rolex because if you're an avid watch lover, you buy it for the mechanics. If you don't know anything about watches, you buy it because it's in rap songs. It's one of the two, right? So most people know them. But when you think about it from like an employer side, one brand that really comes to my mind consistently is Google. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Google gets 3 million CVs a year. 3 million CVs a year, right? And that's to do an internship. What the right? 3 million CVs, like they're a huge company, obviously, but 3 million people graduate university all over the world and want to go and work there. There's a reason for that. There's a few reasons for that, right? I can tell you the opposite of that. Not many CVs go to Jeff Bezos, right, to go and work for Amazon. It's kind of known as the modern day slave driver. So that doesn't have a great appeal when you're thinking about what you want to do when you finish uni or what you want to do when you finish your apprenticeship or whatever. So we've got to think about this, right? Because it's really important that brand, these companies are in America and I'm a lowly boy in New Zealand, but I know about it. So I think that means that lots of other people know about it too. And so they'll make their interview application decision based on some of this stuff. This one's pretty simple. A really, I guess, fundamental marketing principle is that we want to tell people what we do. We don't just want to make shit up, right? Russell Brunson talks about being a documenter over being a creator. So the key point here is you do a bunch of cool stuff. Write it down. Take a photo of it and tell people about it. It's really that simple. Right? You do cool stuff. You take your team out to do awesome team fun days, right? You do a team alignment day and you're all working on getting on the same page together and figuring out values and working through new rules of the game or creating KPIs. You're doing cool stuff that a lot of companies don't do. What we need to do here is just document it and use it, right? So that's key principle number 4. And then the last one, I think, Graham, you nailed this, man. We want to plan it in advance. We want to create templates and systemize it, and we want to delegate it. So if you have an office manager, they'll probably be better at this than you, to be honest. So makes sense. So systemize it and delegate it. Put it on somebody else. If you have a marketing student, perfect for this sort of stuff, right? If you've got the stuff there, if you get the photos, they're already going into job cards. Make sure you're using that sort of stuff, right? If you've got it, use it and create a system. And that's what we're going to get to today. All right, so I've got a bit of a framework for this that I think might be quite helpful. You guys can draw it along with me if you like. But what we're drawing here is the hiring advantage. So we talked about the first thing to do when it comes to this, right? I said that was to build. All right, the first thing that we need to do is we need to build that culture. So we talked a little bit about what that is before, and I'll go into it in a bit more detail soon. Second thing is we need to sell that, right? Like Eddie said, we've got to sell the culture. We've got to make sure that when we do all this cool stuff, it goes out and people know about it so that it attracts more back in. And then the third component to this, nice and simple, is we need to replicate it. We need to make sure that this is a cog, right? It's turning, it's constantly happening. If it happens once, it's not going to make a huge impact, right? We want to start building this stuff now so that when you pull the trigger on hiring, boom, it's all ready to go. They can go back and see that you actually consistently do this, not just when you need to hire somebody. It's not just a sell, it's actually what happens. So if I think about building culture, I think about it like this. I think you've got to define it. That's the first step. You've got to implement it. And then you've got to measure it. And so when you think about defining your culture, you can do a few things to really nail that. First one to me, and I think the most important here, is to nail your core values, right? Know what you and your business actually stand for, what you mean, the standards that everyone has, right? A few things filter into that. You've got your rules of the game. If you crush that, everyone knows the line that they're running down. Everyone's running down the same line, right? They know where the pavers on the bridge really sit. Your mission, right? If you've got a mission or something you guys stand for, a purpose that kind of sits over top of everything else, huge. And then if you're getting the team involved on this stuff and creating it, you know, your team alignment days are massive for this stuff, right? Then everyone's bought in and on the same page, and it's not just you saying, here's what the business and all of us stand for. So if you do that stuff together, you can really crush this. And that's what I mean when I talk about defining. And we've got heaps of trainings on all this sort of stuff, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. Implement was the second one. So when I think about implementing this, it's things like, you know, what do your meeting structures look like? Do you have a monthly toolbox or a weekly toolbox or any other meetings with your management teams that happen consistently? Are you checking performance and helping people develop? Right? So do you consistently do your performance appraisals? Measure where people are sitting every 3 or 6 months, hopefully around 3, and giving them feedback and helping them grow, right? Do you do it any more frequently than that? We talk about the 20-minute catch-up heaps. This is killer. You need to do this, right? I think this is the groundwork for actually really building people on a one-on-one level. And then you've got things like processes. As simple as that, right? You've got processes in your business. This is actually something you can sell, right? And I don't mean sell your processes. I mean people love to know that there's a way of working. There's a way that everyone does things when they come and work somewhere. The worst thing is you know, you come into a business and one person's doing it one way, I do it another way, Bob does it a third way. It's frustrating. And then the last one up the top there is measure. So talked about this before. EMPS is one thing. You can get into more detail with this too, right? You can survey a bunch of different stuff that you'd love to know so that you can keep making your business better to keep attracting more people. The sell piece. So the way I look at this is you've got opportunities, you've got community, and you've got variety. So opportunity for me is the development of your people. So when we talk about selling it, Graham talked about this before, right? When people have anniversaries, growth, new hires, promotions, epic opportunity to sell this stuff, right? If I'm a person who wants to come and work for you and I know there's development opportunities, it feels like a career. If I can grow myself and I want to be more than what I'm currently doing as a third-year apprentice or as a tradesman that would love to be an operations manager one day, if I see that stuff, I know it can happen, right? So that's what I'm talking about there. Maybe you're even getting into new sectors of work. I know a few of you guys are doing this at the moment to protect yourself with the climate at the moment. You know, if you're doing that sort of stuff, it's opportunity to do some different things as well. When I talk about community, it might be things like, hey, if you work with, you know, sports clubs or you sponsor them or community groups, you should celebrate that stuff. It's pretty damn cool. Like if you have your name on a rugby jersey, you should get it up there and tell people about it, right? You're involved. You care about the town that you live in or the community that you're a part of. If people are hitting milestones or happy birthdays or, you know, working their anniversaries, those are pretty easy and important things to celebrate as well. And then when it comes to variety, for me, that's stuff like, you know, projects that you're doing. Like we talked about before, you're already probably capturing this stuff for the most part. If you do some cool stuff on site, make sure you grab it and make sure you chuck it up there, right? It's easy to do. And the key thing here is if you think it looks boring to your customers, it probably doesn't look boring to your potential staff, right? So if you're a Sparky and, hey, looking at some cables on a wall isn't that cool to your customers, it's probably pretty cool to your tradies. So if you do that stuff pretty well, you should be proud of it, take a photo of it, get it up there. It's easy to do, yeah? All right, so if you crack that team, you have the hiring advantage. So that's what we're working towards. All right, so the next piece of this is really practical. And I think it's important that we kind of go along and do this together. On the next page, on page 21, I've got an example here of a content plan, right? Now, we talked about ways that people are going to go and find this stuff before: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, your website. There's a multitude of places where you can put this stuff. But here's an example of a way that you could run this. So if we're looking at page 21, we've got a bunch of different examples here, yeah? So we got on Monday, week 1, maybe you're doing a competition. You obviously need to do this stuff to be able to put it up there, but there's some examples of some things you can do. Maybe you've got a project that you're really, really proud of, and it goes up there, what it looked like before and what it looked like after, and maybe you've captured a bunch of cool stuff that your team have done, and you want to tell everybody about it. Jimmy did XYZ this week, it was bloody awesome, or there's this milestone, or we've got somebody putting in some really hard work, and we want to make sure that that gets recognized even outside of just the team, which is pretty cool, right? Team fun on week 2. I think these are mostly pretty self-explanatory. But hey, if you're doing your team fun days, capture, put it up. It's if you know it's happening, you can schedule this in advance, right? So that's page 21. I think you guys kind of get the picture of what that looks like. And if you go into the next page, it looks like this. Page 22, there's an empty content plan. And then on page 23, there is a list or a bunch of different options that you could pick from. Now, this is the Hiring Advantage ecosystem builder. And if we think about that key principle that we talked about earlier, being a documenter, this is where I really want you guys to focus on when you do this activity. And on that page 23, I just want you to highlight everything that you currently do that you could just capture and put up. Go through the examples and go through what we've already highlighted on our builder there. And on the previous page where we had that content plan, I want you to try and make a content plan for 3 posts a week, right? I think, Graham, you said you were doing 2 or more if you can. Good stuff. Let's aim for 3, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday at a starting point of what we're going to put out there to market for talent, okay?
Hey, I hope you liked the video. Check out all the other videos in the channel and like and subscribe.